This sample is for your back stitch. Let's start with a piece of muslin. In this case, this is 7.5 inches wide by 5 inches, I guess in length. This is my straight grain. As long as you get it straight, it'll be fine. So we've got this little sample that we talked, size that we talked about in class, and then we're going to take those and we're going to cut them in half. So you'll see here that I cut them in half, and I got 2 pieces. In this case, with this sample, what you're going to do is you're going to put these 2 pieces together as if you're sewing 2 pieces of a garment together. With a back stitch, it's a good stitch for when you're sewing something by hand and you want it to be rather strong. For example, in some cases, a whole garment can be sewn by hand. Here, I'm going to use a single thread. Notice that one leg of my thread is shorter than the other. I'm going to knot the end, obviously. And I'm going to begin. Now, if I was sewing a real garment, I would match the color of my thread to my fabric. But since this is a sample, I want to use contrasting thread, and so do you in your sample, so that you can see the stitches. So I'm going to pretend that this is a piece of garment and I have about 1/2 inch seam allowance. And get in the habit of using a thimble as well. A thimble kind of saves the end of your finger. I'm going to pretend this is, well, it doesn't matter. They'll both be the wrong side of the fabric. I'm going to start a little bit in so that when I'm done I can pink all these edges. And I'm going to insert my needle. And it's called a back stitch because when you reinsert the needle, you're going to go back behind the stitch that you just made, and then after you insert it, you're going to come forward about 1/8 of an inch, and then you're going to pull out. Again, I'm going to go behind the last stitch, the exit point of the last stitch I took, and I'm going to go insert behind and come forward. And I'm going to do that again. Go behind 1/8 of an inch, exit 1/8 of an inch past. So I just want to show you if you can see that. You see where my needle comes in and goes out. And then I'm going to pull. Again, behind and forward. That's why it's called a back stitch. It's a nice sturdy stitch. It's kind of like a tacking, and one side of your stitch is going to be shorter than the other side, and so you can see this, it's almost starting to look like a little bit of a machine stitching. When you turn it over, it should begin to have a little bit of an overlap. The stitches are a little longer. They're 1/4 of an inch here because I'm going a longer distance, traveling the needle a longer distance. So it's again a nice sturdy stitch, and you'll do this all the way across your sample piece. So you go behind or the back and come forward. Back behind, come forward. Back behind, come forward. You'll do this all the way down. And once I get to a certain point, I can show you maybe a little bit more on the purpose of it. I'm pushing with my thumb. I should be pushing with my thimble. I actually am. If I get quiet when I'm doing this, it's because I'm focused. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Again, you'll go all the way through. I think at this point I can kind of show you the purpose of it. Again, I do want to sew all the way across. All the way across. Let's take a look at the back and see what we've got. All right, and then what it is let's pretend this is the wrong side of our fabric, and the other side would be the right side. And so if we sewed two garments together, it would almost look like machine stitching. And if this was a matching thread, well, you wouldn't hardly see anything at all. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this end. And again, if you need to pin it down in order to sew it, just pin it down. You know, do whatever you need to do to keep your fabrics together. This shouldn't take you that long to do. I'll say it takes you about 10 minutes to do this sample. And some people are really good at hand stitching and might be able to do it in less time than that. And notice that the stitch is forming up, and I got a knot. And so sometimes you can just pull that out. There you go. Sometimes it resembles the hand stitching, and the stitch is forming in the back. See how it's forming in the back? So there you have it, a back stitch. And I'm trying to get to the end of the stitch so you can see how we finish it off. I'm getting near the end of my stitching. Well, all I have to do is just pull my needle and give it a little bit more thread, single thread. If that straight pin gets in your way, well, just move it out. And we're getting close to our end. And we're going to knot it off at the end, because if you, again, any stitch that you don't tack or knot will begin to come loose. So stitch in time saves 9. And again, don't use a super long thread to sew with. There's a little old rhyme that talks about, I can't remember it, but it talks about using a short thread. Shorter threads are better to sew with. It's just a little easier. If you have to, thread 5 needles rather than, oh, there goes my thimble, rather than sewing with a super long thread. It tends to tangle. And again, I'm getting close to running out, so it's a good thing I'm getting to my end. Whoops, and I keep losing my thimble. And because I'm getting close to the end of my thread, I have lost my needle. Back in business. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and I've gotten to the edge. So I'm going to take my last stitch here, and I'm just going to bring it up near the exit point of my last stitch so that I complete my stitches. And then here I can just either take about 3 stitches, 3 small stitches, as you can see here, in the same place. And if I really want to lock them in, I can kind of knot it by doing the sticking the needle through the loop before I pull. But you still have to do that 2 or 3 times. But just taking 3 stitches or so, and I just lost my thread because it's gotten short. But no problem, fixed. That's why you can't let it get too short on the end. 1 more stitch, and I'm going to call it done. So that's taken, what, about 10 minutes or so to do. So, and you know, if you get faster at it, you'll be even faster. But there you go. Some people can get even straighter than that. And then again, if I open it up, it looks like machine stitching. So you would put this in your sample book. You could do it like this, maybe attach one side here. Attach this side so that I can see this stitch and I can look at it and see how it results in the center. So this would be the front right side of your garment and this would be the wrong side. Okay, that's the sample of the back stitch. We'll see you on the next lesson. Thanks. Bye-bye.